Hello, welcome to Rethink Life. And today we are talking about consciously living allness as oneness. This is taken from Margaret Laird's book, Life's Demonstration, that is available out at the Scientific Metaphysics website at scientificmetaphysics.org. So you're welcome to order it from there. I believe there's also a Kindle version available for those of you who have Kindle books and use the Kindle. So to kick this off, intuitively, inspirationally, a seeker of truth recognizes that the fount of joy, satisfaction, fullness can be tapped to yield its treasures. And it feels this fact because truth is the nature of being. And when the seeker of truth becomes a non-seeker, then truth comes into clearer focus. Let that sink in. When the seeker of truth becomes a non-seeker, then truth comes into clearer focus, and human behavior becomes the nearest perfection possible under the circumstances.
Yep.
So you are the God idea itself, with the capacity or potential to be the knowing which is God humanly. The revelations of science enable you to assume the role of truth, capital T, by identifying all phenomena with mind as its thinking or conscious identity yourself. And I'm going to stop right there.
So it's a mouthful
and
to realize.
Betty, this reminds me of the conversation. Yeah, this reminds me of the conversation we had this morning.
Yeah.
So go more into detail because no one else knows the conversation that we had this morning.
Well, I don't remember the conversation this morning, but that
when you said, go ahead.
That idea is the conscious identity yourself tells you that when you think of yourself as Betty, you don't know who you are. The conscious identity of the God idea is not the seen, heard, and felt picture we see all around us called human living. It's the being that has that look like that. But the being is what it's talking about. The being you all the time is the God idea in action. And the identity of that is who you are. Now, when you look at yourself, you have a view that tells you how you are able to see the God idea. It is the best view you've got. But when you credit the thing you see as being the God idea, you've lost the whole thing. Because if we back up
and we say that which we see isn't the concept. That we see is the one reality present seen from our point of view.
That's right. So what you're seeing is always your point of view. Your view of the reality present is what you call the world you walk through, including yourself.
Yeah.
As Kim or Betty. That is your point of view of a reality that isn't what you're seeing, but is present, being seen that way.
Right. And what we explored this morning is that I can look at a lamp, and that lamp is a lamp. It is whatever it is. My point of view of it, my view of it is the concept, not the thing itself.
Right. The thing itself is reality present, and it doesn't look like a lamp only to you because you have associated that idea with what you're seeing.
Mm-hmm. And then there was one more point that I thought was really in the conversations. You have to really think about that. Because what we view, so we are the world we walk through, consciously living allness as oneness. We are the world we walk through. The point of views the point of view that our world expresses, whether it's good, bad, or indifferent, is our point of view.
And it's all.
It's
all of it.
That's right.
That's right. There's nothing outside of the consciousness being you right now. Right. And it's all that same point of view. And it's why your world agrees with you, because you constitute your world. Yeah. So it's all the same view.
So living consciously as oneness, we can easily recognize that what we have is a point of view. The point of view is the concept. The point of view is what doesn't exist. The one reality showing up is the world I walk through. The point of view is my world reflecting being in the only way I can see it. Can I say that? Or how would you re-say that?
Almost.
Okay, so.
But the point that you were making and what we were saying this morning was that we forget all the time that there is just one intelligence functioning, universally present, constituting all that exists and all that seems to exist. It does not exist anywhere external to the consciousness that has you be present. So it's never external. It's never out there. There's never anything else going on but your own being, infinitely expressed as the world you walk through.
And that could be things you agree with, things you disagree with. It doesn't matter. It's all you.
That's
and
right.
The infinite perceptions of whatever. Yeah.
And it includes your.
And I like to. The thing that was so cool about it was I just got to go, oh my God, that's right. And I remember years ago when there was a conversation of like when John F. Kennedy said, we're going to put a man on the moon in 10 years. There was a lot of schools of thought about whether that was even possible or not. And I remember the description of it's like putting in place a skyscraper, all called A Man on the Moon in 10 years. And inside the lobby on the first floor in the office there was, it can't be done.
Yep.
But everything in that building contributed to putting a man on the moon in 10 years.
Yep.
So it's almost like, so I thought of that and I thought, well, I like the ones who agree with me. And I like to say, well, those people that don't agree with me, yeah, you know what I mean? They obviously can't see logic. And so all of that, but that's all just thank you for sharing, because it's the one reality that's present and the various points of view that is my being showing up to me. Is that, I'm trying to grapple with that.
Right on track. But the thing you have to appreciate then is that, for instance, the room off the lobby that says it can't be done is valuable. You know, Margaret says every event is valuable. Nothing is for nothing. So it's valuable in that it has you explore all the stuff that needs to be explored to, in fact, have a man on the moon in 10 years.
Right.
And so you don't ignore anything. You take it on. Oh, okay, I'll look at that. And you keep looking and you keep looking, and one thing leads to another. But it is the devotion of thought to the man on the move in 10 years that has each moment show up something of value in having that occur. And on you go.
Now right. And I love that. So let me ask you this, because we did a whole Q&A, the last 3 episodes that we had Q&A, the first one of those 3 was all about goal setting.
All about what?
Goal setting.
Oh,
so if I have a goal and I focus on that, devotion of thought to that goal, is it similar, or am I going down the primrose path in a weird way?
Well, you're just playing with the language expression.
Okay.
What you call goal setting is not what achieves anything.
Right.
But devotion of thought, since thoughts are things, makes all the difference.
Okay.
And the the short circuiting that goal setting is that it limits your framework of exploration.
Okay.
You focus on doing this when what you need is this.
Right.
So we
if you
don't
have a
set
broader, if you have
we
an
set-
overall vision for some accomplishment without any idea how to get there.
Well, the thing is, you may, humanly speaking, you may think that it's an accomplishment and it sure looked like it. But what was actually happening was truth present, self-fulfilling, being allowed to self-express. And the allowance is in being willing to let it show up. There was no even awareness of that possibility until somebody said, a man on the moon in 10 years. And everybody began to think about a man on the moon in 10 years.
Right.
And how could that be? Well, what would that mean? Well, how would that look? Well, who would do it? Well, what about that? We say those things and we think we set goals because what in the language world that is the way we gear ourselves up to begin to expand into allness out of our oneness of being. Because we want to see that none of it occurs outside of consciousness. And consciousness constitutes everything that is. It's the fundamental presence that has everything occur. So when we allow it to be, it starts happening. And goal setting, as you called it, setting a man on the moon, it's vision. And it's giving voice to vision. It's giving identity to vision. It's allowing it to be. And as you focus on that, it occurs. And the reason it appears to occur is because it's always been. Truth is present, seen however we see it. A man on the moon is nothing. We got men on Mars and we got them on and on and on, which we have not yet seen. But why not? Because we haven't even looked in that direction. But you open it up to possibility, then it begins to occur because it is thought that has things occur.
Got it. Okay, good. Now, if you're enjoying this conversation, my invitation for you is to subscribe to our YouTube channel, give us a thumbs up or say, yep, we like this. Either way, and let us know. Also, feel free to enter your comments in the comments box. We love the comments. We try to reply to all of them, and we also take questions to use in future episodes as well, so we can dive into some of the really good questions that we've gotten. So please do that if you're so moved, and enjoy. So anyways, feel free to make any comments that you have. So let's dive in. One more thing that I wanted to say as opening for this is a mode of human action may be indicated that you could not agree with, but with which you try to conform. And as a scientist, you do argue the question because you realize that the self-conscious living of your divinity evolves the highest right humanly under the circumstance. And you will know exactly what to do and how to do it when the time comes for the doing. And that's a quote taken out of Life's Demonstrations right on page 1.
Yep.
Okay. So let's dive into the quotes. So on page 3 in Life's Demonstration by Margaret Laird, she wrote, "Truth in and as individual consciousness is the discernment of the God idea. All is infinite mind."
Yep. And that, I'm trying to think how many years ago, but in the last 100 years, for instance, we have so opened up to the power of thought, to the strength and purpose of mind action, that we've got sociology, psychology, we've got a whole lot of human sciences expanding on that idea. And no longer is it weird to think that things are mental.
Right.
It used to be they'd say, oh, for heaven's sakes. But now it's, yeah, it's possible,
Right. Right.
Yeah.
And Margaret Laird also said the infinite is demonstrated by the self-conscious living of the whole as oneself, all of which we started to talk about when we first, just a little bit ago.
Yeah. And the whole is oneself. Those are quick and easy words, but give a little vision to what she was saying with that sentence. If I can see that the world I'm walking through is really a point of view of my own being, infinitely expressed everywhere I look, everywhere I turn. But I want to convince myself that this here, called Betty, this thing, is really present and running her show. And that out there is separate from me. And I have to take care of navigating through that lifetime. And I missed the entire boat by not recognizing that all of that I walk through, called the world I live in, and the things and the people and the places, all of that is not existing outside of the consciousness constituting me, constituting who I am.
Right.
Now, it doesn't constitute Betty, but Betty is my view of myself, the best view I've got at the moment. So yeah, it's all about one being itself being, and the whole world shows up. The whole thing.
Yep. Now, in Science and Health, Mary Baker Eddy said on page 319, starting on line 19, the divine mind controls man, and man has no mind but God.
Yep. And she would write that more expressively today. But when she wrote her book, she didn't have a single metaphysical scientist to talk to. She was just talking to the rank and file people on the street. So she said it the best way she could at that time. But when you read her book, you recognize that she saw a whole lot more than that.
Right.
And that fundamentally, that was the bottom line. That one sentence, man has no mind but God. The God idea in expression is all there is, ever. So we don't have to fix it or change it or whatever. We have to live it consciously, and miracles occur in human living. Yep.
And in your book, Mind is the Athlete, on page 25, you said it this way. Could our conventional dependency on what's observable, the seen, heard, and felt of the physical world, be the flaw?
Yeah. And then
and your answer is?
And
your answer is?
The note that I wrote follows up on that. You want to read that?
Yeah. Perhaps treating the physical world, which I refer to as language, as if it were causative is actually erroneous and a threat to individual effectiveness though undistinguished as such.
Yep.
So very good. So the more we assign cause out there, over there in our world, the more we're down the primrose path of ineffectiveness.
Well, we're blinding ourselves to what's actually true.
Yeah, it's almost like we're saying 2 + 2 is 3.
Yep. And wondering why it doesn't work when we try a math problem.
Right. Or anything.
It's 3.
Right.
I know it's 3.
Right. Okay. Very good. All right. Yeah. All right. And Life's Demonstration, also on page 3, Margaret Laird wrote, the answer to the question, what is truth, is found only in the fact that mind, your mind, is the creative God.
Yep. Yep. And then she says it'll be a great
and by
day
that,
for
we're not talking. Say that again, sorry.
I was just going to share that note. That it'll be a great day for the human race when man looks to no authority outside of his own divinity, mind. That's from Christian
Yes.
Science Explored, her book. Yep.
Did I miss that one? Yeah, I did.
No,
I missed that note. I know I see it now, but I did not get it in these notes. Okay. All right. And in Science and Health on page 475, Mary Baker Eddy wrote, "To truth there is no error. All is truth. To infinite spirit there is no matter. All is spirit, divine principle, and its idea."
Mm-hmm. So if I said that in a personal way, I would say to Betty, there's a lot of error. There's a lot of stuff that doesn't work. There's a lot of stuff that needs to be fixed and changed and rearranged and organized and controlled and fussed over. To infinite spirit, there's no matter. But to Betty, everything out there is matter. And it needs to be taken care of. You need to pay attention, Science teaches us to leave that picture alone. And almost automatically, we all want to fuss with it. We want to fix it, change it, make it better, improve it, etc. And that's exactly the reverse of what frees you to be yourself, because who you are is not the image you see in the mirror. Who you are is the being that allows that image to show up. And the being is your power. The being is the source of your capacity to act, to think, to do, to have. That's all being, because the Betty is a picture of you. And it's your picture of yourself. And you think that picture is causative. And that's wherein you err, because it's not accurate.
Right.
And then you build a whole lot of stuff on what your opinion is, what your view is, and miss the fact of who you are.
Yeah. Right.
Okay.
So what also is pulled there is, in metaphysics, matter disappears from the remedy entirely, and mind takes its rightful and supreme place.
Yep.
I think that's what you said earlier.
Mm.
All right. So moving into the third quote, same page, page 3 of Life's Demonstration. It's a killer little pamphlet. The answer to the question, what is... Oh, no, in mind is the athlete. That's right. So this is what we already said, but in mind is the athlete, you say it this way. Have you ever wondered what has us behave the way we do? It has to do with an instinctive or intuitive awareness that we already own it all.
Yep. There is an instinct about that.
Would that be more like intuition?
Yeah, well, and it's like the certainty that that you exist. You may be missing the information on how that existence occurs or what it is all about, but you do know that you exist, and nobody can talk you out of that. So it's that intuitive sense that we're talking about.
Okay. All right. Now in Life's Demonstration on page 3.
Yep.
Margaret Laird said, "We may assume certain courses of human action are good, but such assumption is bound to prove itself false as truth, capital T, brings good to view as the knowledge that only capital good is."
Yep. When Margaret writes, she writes capital good, meaning a divine fact. And then a little g would mean good, meaning human good and bad, right and wrong, rich and poor.
Right.
Paradox. Yep.
Right. So what she says here is the God idea, or the absolute capital good, makes what is good an ever-changing concept.
Yeah. And the what is good is the human view.
Right.
Yeah.
I like this ever-changing concept, though. because I'm
Yep.
reminded of the conversation we had a few sessions ago where we talked about, we want to be happy and we want to design a life that's the life we want, except for we're designing it now for 30 years from now, what will make us happy. And then when we get there, we're not that person that we were who created that goal in the first place.
Yep.
So we end up being no happier because it's ever changing.
Margaret used to say, I guess I heard it a million times anyway, but she says, you're happy whether you know it or not. And I said, what good does it do me to know, to not know or to know if it doesn't make any difference? She said, what good does it do you to know anything or to not know it? It's you make it all up. You think it's more comfortable to know. And then sometimes you wish you didn't know something because you were happier without that knowledge. It's a never-ending paradox.
Right. Exactly. And then in Science and Health, Mary Baker Eddy said, immortal ideas, pure, perfect, and enduring, are transmitted by the divine mind through divine science.
Yeah, it's transmitted by divine mind, not by human conjecture or argument or attempts to prove. It's a divine fact. And it's true whether I like it or not, whether I know it or not, whether I'm willing to have it or not, and it doesn't make any difference what Betty thinks. Facts are facts, and fiction is fiction. And when I live the fiction as if it were fact, I am in deep trouble with myself.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
And then Mind is the Athlete on page 32, you say, circumstances are not causative. Your focus of thought has openings for action occur.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the devotion of thought, whole idea of that.
Yep. The devotion of thought is what makes anything possible.
Right. Yeah. And the carrot that motivates and keeps human beings pursuing this science is the increased health, wealth, happiness, and self-expression that emerges along the way as you open yourself to the exploration of possibility.
Yep.
So if you had one thing to leave people with on consciously living allness as oneness, what would it be? What can they look at? What would you recommend people look at, note, observe, live between now and next week, for instance?
I would think that it might be really, really helpful to look at the ideas that are present that may not yet show up in your life, but they're ideas. And as you focus
Such as like ideas in what way?
Mind.
Okay.
Such as mind is the source and condition of all existence. Such as man has no mind but God, or the God idea.
Okay.
It's not personal. Intelligence is present.
So and reflect on these ideas.
Have to have that as a human expression, knowing that that's the fact of being, leaves me open to, how do I let it show up in my life? And then I begin to look at how can I do that? And then I begin to look at what Margaret says, what Mary Baker Eddy says, what in fact, quite a few people who write spiritual books and so on have said, and that is to leave the human picture alone. Don't try to fix it. Don't try to fuss with it. The one thing that we begin with, the very starting point is it's all mental. But the mental doesn't mean human efforting. It means divine mind constituting. So the constitution of thought is divine. And when you leave the view of it that you have, the picture that you're looking at alone, that thought shows up strongly and takes care of whatever the human living situation is. And you find yourself with oh, well, okay, I can do that.
Yeah.
Or suddenly you'll say, I really feel pretty good. Or else you'll say, there is a way for me to work that out. I'm going to find out how to get the money to go to college. Or you'll say something similar to that. But the opening for that to expand into expression is present when you leave the picture alone and work with the ideas present.
Right. Right. All
We
right.
said
Very good.
many different ways, but maybe it'll come through in one of these expressions.
Right. Exactly. All right. So there's no comments that anyone have made so far. So that concludes our live stream tonight, Consciously Living Allness as Oneness. So look and see for yourselves, ponder those ideas and take a look. And we'll see you next Tuesday, 5 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Central.